Isreal Adesanya is going to make a fool of himself in the build-up to his fight with Dricus Du Plessis, and it's because he has a glaring insecurity. He's not willing to face it. He's not willing to admit it, and he's coping and projecting that insecurity onto Dricus. And he's painting Dricus out to be a villain and making a straw man argument because he knows that if he were to address what is really going on here, it would be a hit to his ego. Guys, I do not believe that things between him and Dricus are going to get ugly. No, the only thing that is going to get ugly in the build-up to this fight is Adesanya's mental state. I believe it is going to deteriorate as we get closer to the fight. He is going to drive himself mad, and by the time we hit UFC 293 fight week, we are going to be looking at a nutcase, okay? We're going to be looking at something that I would like to say is hysterical, and I wouldn't be surprised if Adesanya loses the majority of his fans in the build-up to this because he's not being real, all right? He doesn't have los cojones, all right? He doesn't have the guts or the gumption to at least get down to the nitty-gritty because he likes to portray himself as this all-knowing, deep thinker that, you know, if it comes to something that might be an insecurity, I'm man enough to admit it. Look at this documentary that I just did. It's called A Fighter in the Fucking Pond or The Fighter in the Flowers. Really deep, philosophical guy that's also not afraid to be open and vulnerable as well. Well, in reality, Adesanya hates being vulnerable. He hates being real, okay? Adesanya wants to portray himself as that. But in reality, dude, the guy is, you know, he's bottling all this shit up. You know, he's just a big giant cope. And because of that, people tend to get a cringe-worthy feeling when he talks, a cringe-worthy feeling when he walks. All right? And he's just constantly giving us these crazy headlines. And so that it's just going to continue to get worse. And by the time we hit UFC 293, he's going to have gone so far off the rails that it's going to be a little bit disturbing. And as a guy that loves MMA, as someone that loves to talk about it, as someone that loves the sport and wants it to do well and wants it to flourish, I'm worried that Isreal Adesanya is going to paint our sport out to be a madman's fest. All right? I don't want the representative, the poster boy of the UFC, to be a total nutcase. All right. And you know what? I might be fine with the poster boy of the UFC being a bit of a nutcase. You know, that might be cool. Oh, this guy's a badass. He's crazy. No, he's really crazy. Like he gets in the octagon and destroys people. But the nutcase in question is just a guy that's going to go out there and leg kick. All right. So it's not even a cool nutcase. The one that like we don't really want to watch. It's going to get that bad. And this can all be prevented if he were to just be real. And sometimes it's difficult to just admit where there's a chink in the armor. And the chink in the armor here is that Adesanya has a bit of an identity crisis. Come on, it's no secret at this point. The reason why he doesn't like Dricus Du Plessis throwing up his set, representing his hood, is because Adesanya wants to rep that shit just as hard as Dricus. Why do I say that Adesanya has no balls? Well, because he's not being honest. Dude, you don't like how Dricus Du Plessis is repping his hood, bro. He's throwing up his set. You're mad about it, bro. You're pissed. And I understand it, dude. But at the end of the day, you just come out and tell us the truth, all right? You don't like that Dricus Du Plessis is repping that shit because he is straight up. But he feels like he maybe can't because Dricus has a point when he says, bro, I'm fucking really doing it and I'm really breathing the air every day and I'm really going to this gym every day. A lot of guys, they leave the little hometowns. And there's a certain pride that you have when you stick it out and you hold down the fort. And Dricus is holding down the fort and he's sticking it out in that funky gym, you know, that's giving him this funky style. Whereas most people, when they're in that situation and they're training out of a little run-of-the-mill gym in a small town, they feel like this funky shit ain't working, dude. I gotta go with the factory that is producing all the best MMA fighters. I gotta go to ATT. I gotta go to City Kickboxing, or I gotta go to AKA. He doesn't want to do that. And Leon Edwards is another guy that's taking great pride for staying in England. We know that a lot of UK fighters have left to grow as a wrestler and as a grappler. And Leon Edwards has said, I'm not doing that. No. I want to be the first fighter out of the UK that lives and trains in the UK to win a belt. and we've seen him poke fun at Michael Bisping. It's okay. I understand why Dricus Du Plessis, is willing to poke fun at people for leaving or not staying. The issue here is with Isreal Adesanya, and you have to be a little bit nuanced, guys. Adesanya left, Nigeria, not on his own accord. His parents brought him with them. They decided to go. Adesanya was a kid, dude. He has no choice. And so Adesanya has this idea that, fuck, damn it, why'd we have to leave? He's probably asked his parents this. He's probably thinking, shit, bro, that could be me. I could have been that guy. And I could understand why that would really tick him off. I completely understand why Adesanya would be upset at Dricus Du Plessis getting in front of the media with a smirk on his face, saying, as far as I'm concerned, I'm the only one that's really training and breathing this air. All those other guys, for sure, they're repping, but they're not repping like I'm repping, okay? I get why Adesanya would take issue with that. And as far as I'm concerned, he has every right to have an issue. But he doesn't want to admit this insecurity. And instead, because he's bottling it up inside, the way that he copes with it is he projects it onto Dricus. So he's then going to tell Dricus, you shouldn't feel comfortable with where you're living, okay? Because you had no choice to be born there. No, your ancestors were the reason why you're born there, and they brought you there. And you should feel as uncomfortable as I am living in New Zealand. You shouldn't feel really rooted in. You should have an identity crisis too. And guess what? It's easy to say that to Dricus because he's okay? Straight up. And it's clear as day that that is what Adesanya is insinuating, bro. He's saying, dude, you shouldn't feel comfortable in your own skin because look at where you're living and you stick out a little bit more than I would stick out. So you too, you should feel uncomfortable and have the same insecurity. Bro, that's what's really going on. And this is Adesanya's thought process right now, which can be avoided if he were to address what's really going on. But the reason he can't is because he's got a big fat ego. And he's got to always be in the right. And he's got to play this card like he's the little underdog. I'm the little victim. Adesanya loves to act like it, when in reality, he's the fucking poster boy of the UFC. The guy has more of a say than anyone else in the UFC that's not Conor McGregor. He's the champion. He's really going to sit here and try to paint Dricus out to be the big, bad, high school bully, the high school jock. I mean, I understand Dricus looks the part, but he certainly ain't. He's classy. He's humble. Adesanya is the one that's shoving Dricus into a locker, and Dricus can't do a damn thing about it because it's today's day and age, and you know exactly what will happen if Dricus says anything about it. And I liked when he called Adesanya a clown.
He's behaving like a clown in there.
He called him a clown, man, especially in the South African accent, dude. That sounds dope. There's no better accent, by the way, to sounding like, you're the bigger person than that South African accent. The UK accent, the Irish accent is good for talking shit, but for the role that Dricus is taking right now, nothing better. Dricus Du Plessis is being painted out to be the villain by Adesanya. Isreal Adesanya cannot just address Dricus Du Plessis' real comments, because if he addresses his real comments, the ones that he's actually making, the clarified statements of Dricus as well, he'll have no other choice but to admit that he's angry and insecure. And it's okay to admit that every now and then. And if he doesn't admit that he's insecure, he'll have no other choice than to basically seem like a total dickhead. And if you go back to the original statements, the ones that he made in March at the UFC 285 media day, it wasn't all that bad. You know what I mean? And people are taking this and blowing it out of proportion. All right. He's allowed to feel pride for sticking it out and training at that funky gym. Okay. And obviously it's working, man. There's that funky style that he has, Dricus Du Plessis style, that has given him the ability to just throw everyone off with his awkwardness. At the end of the day, this is what's got him to beat Robert Whittaker. All right. And I truly believe that Dricus could even go out there and manhandle Izzy. And you know what? I want him to manhandle Izzy. I want him to get up in Adesanya's face and beat his ass, dude. Slam him on the ground, out-grapple him for 5 rounds, maybe find a submission or a TKO. Izzy deserves to get his ass kicked at this point, bro. All right? I'm tired of people acting like this is the little underdog. He ain't. All right? He's not the hero. He's just the fucking villain. He's like the big billionaire villain that gets whatever he wants and can step on people and get away with it. I'm looking forward to the fight. I really do believe that Dricus does have what it takes to beat Izzy, right? He's got some weird, funky style and insane strength. The guy's just freakishly strong. I mean, he made Robert Whittaker look like he was a rag doll. And when it comes to his power, it's off the charts. He's hurting everyone that he's fighting. I think he could tag Izzy. I think he could take Izzy down and beat his ass there too. The issue is, I feel like the MMA gods are just too cruel to grant us that, guys. I can't see that actually happening. But what we're actually going to get is Adesanya with a horn on his head, a couple of boobs to go with it. Who knows? Maybe USADA won't even pay him a visit. And all of a sudden, Izzy shows up, the biggest he's ever been, and he's going to put on an absolute wailing on Dricus Du Plessis. He's going to beat him up so badly to the point to where we're just not even going to watch it anymore. And Adesanya is going to get on the mic and rant about how he stood up to this bad guy and, stand up for yourself and all this. And he's going to try to make it a big motivational speech. I just worry that that's what's going to happen. Aside from Adesanya losing a ton of fans, and even if he does get his hand raised, I guarantee you, unlike the last time where it seemed as if 70% of people were clowning him in the build-up to the Alex Pereira rematch, and then all of a sudden he wins, and everyone's back on the Adesanya train acting like they weren't just turning on him. Instead of that, it's going to be so bad, he's going to expose himself and make himself look like such an insecure clown and a fool that even if he wins, people are going to be upset with it. And that'll be the silver lining, I guess. At least people will be actually able to see through all of his bullshit. But when it comes down to the fight itself, my prediction, guys, and I'm sure some of you guys are going to be relieved, given that there is some kind of a Lucas Tracy curse that some people believe in, I am going to go with Adesanya. I think it's going to be a really tough fought fight. I do not think that Dricus Du Plessis is going to be a walk in the park for anyone after what he just did to Robert Whittaker. I said before the Whittaker fight, Dricus isn't championship caliber, and that's why he can't beat Whittaker, because Whittaker is championship level caliber. Well, he just smoked him. Okay, so he definitely is on that level. He has a chance to beat Izzy, the difference maker. And I know this is going to sound so small and insignificant to some people, but Izzy's going to be training with Craig Jones. And that is a guy that has helped Volkanovski level up massively for his fights with Islam Makhachev and a guy like Brian Ortega. And of course, in his most recent fight with Yair Rodriguez. I mean, think about Volkanovski's ability to shut down and nullify people on the ground. And to be able to do that defensively as well, getting out of those Ortega submissions, getting out of those bad positions against Islam Makhachev. Well, Adesanya has already done a lot of training with Craig Jones. He's very close with Volkanovski. Jones and Volk are extremely close. And if anyone's going to get that opportunity, it's going to be Izzy. He'll probably pay Craig Jones a shitload of money to teach him how to shut down Dricus's grappling game. And yes, Dricus may just be so goddamn good and unorthodox that no one will be able to figure him out. And once he gets his hands on Adesanya, he'll just manhandle him. And Adesanya just will not be ready for it. And there's also the chance that maybe Izzy is just not on the same level of talent when it comes to grappling as Volkanovski. Maybe he won't pick it up as much like a Volk who's super intensely dedicated to the sport. But I still have enough evidence of guys making big leaps and bounds improvements after they've trained with Craig Jones. And I believe that Adesanya might just go in there, stuff a lot of the takedowns, nullify the grappling, and just slowly but surely outpoint Dricus on the feet. And I don't think that Adesanya's striking is going to be that amazing to where he'll be able to finish Dricus. I think that he'll find that Dricus is super tough. He's hard to deal with on the feet. He's unorthodox. And a lot of Adesanya's time and energy is going to be dedicated to the grappling during training camp. So his striking might just diminish a tad bit and take a back step. I do think that Izzy is going to win a decision. And it's probably going to be like 48-47. But I will really be rooting for Dricus. And I almost really want to pick him because I could see him finishing Izzy. I could see him showcasing this funky, awkward style and just manhandling Izzy or knocking him out in the first couple of rounds. And I hope that happens. But it's just, man, are the MMA gods kind enough to allow us to get that satisfaction? That will be the question. So I'm really looking forward to the build up to this fight. Am I looking forward to Adesanya embarrassing himself on a grand stage and maybe getting to the point to where he's so loud and obnoxious that what he's saying and what he's doing is transcending the niche MMA community, getting out into the mainstream and making MMA look terrible and turning people off from the sport? I don't know if I'm ready for that, but I am ready for Dricus Du Plessis to hold his ground, to be the bigger person, and for Adesanya to make himself look like a fool. I also just wish that Adesanya were to just fucking be honest about this stuff, because even if he were honest, some people would still dislike him, but at least they would give him that respect. So I hope you guys Enjoy the video. Until next time. What's up, guys? It's Lucas Tracy MMA, and I'm wondering if you're trying to look like Yoel Romero. Well, if you don't have his genetics, that's impossible, but I could at least help you get halfway there with my ultimate lifting program, and if you're a beginner, my novice lifting program. These are programs that I've used my 9 years of experience in the gym to make so that you can put on as much muscle as possible in as little amount of time as possible. And it'll also give you a variety of workouts so that you never get tired of the gym. So if you're interested, click the link in my description. And for a discount, use code MMA for 30% off.